I wanted to make a new video showing you a third method to fill your reusable pen cartridges. This method, instead of worrying about venting the cartridge as we fill it in or depleting all the air from the cartridge before we fill it, I'm going to show you how you could use the pen itself to fill the cartridge. And what you want to do is you want to take the pen of your choice. I'm going to be using the V2 pen here from Pen Depot for this. And what we're going to do is we're going to take the cartridge and we're going to place it in the pen, and then we're going to go ahead and put our pen needle on the tip and then just push all the air out through the pen needle. So we'll load the cartridge. On the V2s, don't be too scared to push hard to get those threads started when the piston's all the way down like that. Let's get our alcohol wipe. Just do our best to keep everything sanitary, even though we just pulled it out of a sterile cartridge. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the pen needle and we're going to go ahead and put it on. Let's thread that on. And then we can go ahead and leave the cap on it, but then we're just going to dial this back and we're going to start pushing it in. And we're going to keep repeating this until we get it all the way to the end. And once we get it to the end, we will take the pen needle off. We will pull the cartridge back out and reset the pen down to 0. All right, that's about all we're going to get. We don't want to push too hard, but that's about as far as we can get it. All right, so let's take the pen needle off. Set that there carefully. Now we'll just unscrew this. And we can push this back down in. Now we'll just, once it's pushed back in, we'll replace it. Now we can take our peptide and we can just stick it through the stopper on the cartridge and then slowly fill it, and then this piston will move itself all the way back as far as it needs to, up to 3 milliliters, which is what we actually have in this vial. We'll just wipe everything down again. We'll fill this up with 3 milliliters of air, since that's how much we're going to be taking out. Inject the air into the vial. Let's turn this upside down, and then we're just going to let the pressure that we just applied in there kind of push this peptide into our syringe. Kind of holding it back. I don't want it to go too fast because sometimes you can get some bubbles, and I like to try to clear as much air out of the insulin pen as I can. I'm just going to let this kind of take its time. No rush. Give it a little bit of help. We still got quite a bit of air in there, and that's okay. All right, let me push some of that air back in. Okay, now we'll just draw the rest of it out. All right, I know you can't see because I'm holding this upright, but I think I'm a little hooked on the... All right, I want to pull this needle back as far as we can. So we want to make sure we can get as much of it out as possible. So we want to get it to where it's almost out. All right. I think I got pretty much all of it. There might be, yeah, we did pretty good there. All right, so now you'll see we just take this and we put it right through the stopper here. We don't go too far because we don't want to puncture the piston, but as soon as we break through, that's going to be good enough. And now we're just going to slowly start pushing this in. And then you should see on the camera, the piston is going to start shifting itself down to make room for the volume of liquid. So I'm just doing this nice and slow. I don't want to create bubbles. I don't want to create too much turbulence. And then once we get it pushed all the way in, I'll put the pen needle on probably one last time, and just try to maybe click it a few times and purge some of this air. The less air that's in there, the more sanitary it is. And then you don't have to worry about air when you're administrating it. And sometimes you can tell, like these pistons, sometimes they move pretty easy, sometimes they move pretty rough. This one's moving pretty easy, so I actually wouldn't be surprised if I could pull some of the air out with this syringe instead of having to put putting the pen needle back on there. There's really not a whole lot of air on this one. So we'll see if we get a little lucky here. A little bit of air is not going to be too bad, but I like to get out as much as I can. And sometimes when you pull back on the plunger on this syringe, it'll pull that piston a little bit tighter. See, like right now, we have almost no air in there. So that's perfect. Let me just give this push a little bit with the syringe, see if I'm pushing any fluid in there or air. Okay, it kind of looks like I'm putting a little bit of air in there, so we'll go back just a little bit more. All right. Yep, see, you guys don't see any air bubbles moving in there. That's perfect. We are done. But if that didn't work with me pulling it out with this syringe, we could have just simply screwed our pen needle back on, held this upright, and then slowly pressed a couple units at a time. So I'm just gonna do this. I like to snug it up so that I don't forget. All right, so now it's nice and snugged up to the piston. We're ready for our research.